What's up, guys? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, for being subscribed. If you're not, go ahead and hit that button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like button. It's like walking into the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into this beautifully honest reaction. All right, guys. So I previously did a conversation where I was talking about Nene and the fact that she did this interview with Bethenny that I felt was... It was self-serving on Bethenny's part, but in my opinion, foolish on Nene's part. I felt like Nene should have already at this point in time built her own platform versus waiting for someone else to give her an opportunity. And I discussed all of that. I'll put a link to that in the description box if you want to listen to it. But listen, guys, she maybe has listened to me and others who have put their opinions out there to let her know that you should have already been doing your own, at least, podcast or YouTube channel at this point in time versus continuing to talk about RHOA and Bravo and Andy and how they did you wrong and they let people go into your closet and they did this and they did that and it's la 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 la. It's 2023. It's about to be 24 in a hot second, like literally, because it's already the 5th of October and I swear we were just in September a couple of minutes ago. This year is flying by. Time is just not waiting. And there's this old saying, the older you get, the time flies faster. I tend to believe it's not really flying faster, even though it feels that way. Just as adults, we have more responsibilities than we did as children. So all we had to do when we were little kids was go to school and it felt like the day was dragging on. And it's like, all right, is it 3:00 yet? I'm ready to get out of here. But anyway, guys, she's talking about her YouTube channel. So I'm just going to go ahead and share this with you guys, give a little reaction to some of the things that she's saying. So let's go ahead and get into it. But before I get into it, I find it funny that her thumbnail has a little small picture of she and Bethenny. So that's one of the reasons why I feel like she listened to opinions like mine of what I had to say, because I don't think she listened to me and I really don't care. I'm just saying, I was so, it was just like ridiculous to me that she was doing another interview when she just did a big interview with Carlos King. That should have been it. She shouldn't have even given Bethenny that interview. But that's my personal opinion. You can let me know how you feel about that in the comment section. Of course, Bethenny reaches an audience that Carlos does not. But yet and still, all of the things that she said about Bravo and how they treated the melanated ones versus the unmelanated ones and whatever, you would give this interview to an unmelanated one. I'm not saying that you had to dislike Bethenny or hate her, but yet you would give her that when she's already got so much. But what do I know? But I'm also wondering if her pal Michelle A.T.L.E.N. Brown spoke to her to say, girl, like, what are you waiting on? I'm doing YouTube videos talking about you and praising you all the time. Why wouldn't you just go ahead and keep going on your own YouTube channel? Because listen, she's already got 163,000 subscribers. She'd definitely get more. But say what you want about Candy. I'm not one of her fans. I don't dislike her either. But Candy hustles and she works. And I mean, sometimes too much, in my personal opinion, because she's here, there, and everywhere. But no one's giving Candy anything. She's pitching things. If they pick it up in terms of these spinoffs and things like that, that's what's happening. They're not just coming to Candy, bowing at her throne, her proverbial throne, and giving her these shows. She's presenting them, and they either pick them up or they don't. She's hustling. She's doing the YouTube. She's got a few YouTube channels. She's got all of this stuff. It's too much. Anyway, let me get off of that. But let's just go ahead and get into what Nene had to say.
It's your girl, Nene. Welcome back to my channel. Now, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so that you don't miss a thing, okay? So this is sort of me like redoing my channel over here on YouTube. And basically, just want this to be a safe place. Well, it probably won't be safe, honey, but a place where I can come and just talk about all things Nene. Yes. So there'll be days I'll have on makeup over here, and there'll be days I will not. And today, as you can see, your girl is not wearing any makeup, okay? And I like it like that. Really, I'm not a makeup girl like people believe. I am a skin girl. I love great skin, and so I mess around with all the skin products.
Well, I might have to send Nene some of my skincare products. As you guys may or may not know, I am a licensed esthetician. I have my own skincare line that I started in 2017. It is absolutely amazing. And so, yeah, I have to do my own plug for you all. And go ahead and get your skincare products. I have a link for a discount and a link to the website in the description box. So please go ahead and check it out. It's the Inez Elizabeth Beauty Skincare line.
Skin world. I'm always somewhere seeing my esthetician. I see her every other week to just do things to my skin, and I love that kind of stuff. All that anti-aging things. I love doing all that stuff. So I've been getting a lot of questions and a lot of people saying, how did you and Bethenny get together? What happened, blah, 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 blah. So I thought I'd come over here and do a quick recap so everybody won't have to ask me. I can just go ahead on and tell you, okay? So Bethenny had reached out to me a while back about maybe coming on her show and talking with her, just interviewing, just basically interviewing. And again, I wasn't ready. Whenever people call me about interviews, I'm never ready, honestly. But because interviews scare me, because I feel like people who watch the interviews get really confused, like, why is she talking about that? And you're like, I'm in an interview. They're asking me questions, and I'm answering the questions. So I try to be, selective about what I'm going to do in an interview and who I'm going to do the interview with. Nonetheless, I decided that I was going to do an interview with Bethenny.
And that's what a lot of people have issue with it, because she hadn't really done a detailed, thorough interview with anyone. So when she gave it to Carlos, that's probably where she should have left it. And then from there, with Carlos shedding his tears and giving her flowers, I mean, he was giving her bouquets and bouquets of flowers, right? And I feel interjecting ideas for her, who knows what he said to her in the background. I feel like from there, that should have been when she should have, not immediately, but should have announced her own venture, doing her own thing. It's like, okay, yeah, they wouldn't give me a seat at the table any longer. So now I've created my own table. I created my own platform. She should have done this a long time ago versus waiting for them to bring her back and all of the things that she's done. She's made a lot of bad decisions. And sometimes I wonder, even though it wasn't like she was always listening to Greg if he told her what to do, but losing that anchor that he was, this is my personal opinion, guys. Because let's just be real. If you all don't remember the first season, Nene never admitted to being a stripper. When she was accused of being a stripper, because that was one of the questions Andy asked her at the reunion, she denied it. She denied it. But I believe that Greg got her. He found her at the strip club. And he up-leveled her in a lot of ways, and she was used to having that man take care of her. She's always been used to being in a position where someone is doing something for her or giving her something. She's not used to doing something for herself. Yeah, she would go on auditions and stuff like that, but that's not the same. You know what I mean? So going on auditions to become employed and be a job, it's different being an entrepreneur than being employed. And Nene has always been employed, whether it was a stripper, whether it was on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, whether it was on Broadway, whether it was on The New Normal, Glee. These have been employment opportunities. She has not been an entrepreneur, because even with the Lanithia Lounge, let's just be real. How long did that last? Not everyone is cut out to be a business owner, but she said she loves to talk. You don't have to be great at being an entrepreneur when you already have a following, because there are already so many people out here that like her, love her, and just want to listen to her. And so she could have been doing YouTube at the least. All those times she was talking and saying all those things, she could have at least be getting paid for it, doing it on YouTube. So she should not have given Bethenny that interview. But anyway, she says that she was interviewed. She has to answer the questions that are asked of her. But a lot of people felt like she shouldn't have even done that interview with Bethenny.
And so I got to tell y'all all of this. Okay, so we decided to do it. Bethenny flew me in to her home. So she has a beautiful house in Connecticut. I flew into New York. Of course, her driver picks me up and took me to her place. So let me just tell you. First, let me go back. The night before the interview, I was extremely nervous, like I could not sleep all night long. I was so nervous about doing the interview. And Bethenny and I talked about this. I was really nervous because I don't want to be in an interview where somebody is like tricking me or doing some sort of gotcha kind of question. And I didn't know what she was going to do. I have not ever seen her podcast. I didn't know what was going to happen. So fast forward, a car picked me up. I flew into New York. A driver drove me over to Connecticut. So we're driving through her gates.
Listen, I know not every person who is a housewife on all of these different franchises are on the same level financially. I get that, okay? But I don't have, the jealous spirit, but I would feel some type of way if I were Nene, if I'm talking about someone who was a housewife just like I was, and their driver is coming to pick me up and taking me to their estate, and I'm going behind the gates. Like, Nene's sounding like she wasn't a housewife as well. She sounded like she was one of the underlings coming to see one of the big girls. It's weird to hear her speak like this. But again, I'm not saying that every person who was on the Housewives are on the same level financially and living the same type of lifestyle. But in my personal opinion, I feel like that's one of the reasons why this Housewives thing, it's like even the television sitcom that this was based off of, which is Desperate Housewives, came to an end at some point. How the freak long is the Housewives supposed to last? Even the Golden Girls ended at some point. You know what I mean? But do we want to see these women go from in their 30s, 40s, and 50s to being in their 80s and 90s? No. You either need to switch the people out or you need to let it go. And I don't know how long people think the Housewives is supposed to last. I mean, let's be real. Real Housewives of Atlanta is on season 15 at this point. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Bethenny lives on an estate that is like acres and insane. And she has all these houses on her property, which is insane and gorgeous and beautiful. And when I got there, she was in the main house, and they took me over to like the guest house, which she calls a cottage. It was a whole nother house, honey. I don't even know how she called it a cottage. I'm like, girl, this is a whole nother house. This is some people whole house. It was upstairs, downstairs. I'm like, this is a whole house. She has apple trees in her yard. She has a trampoline. She has a, oh my God, I forget what you call it. Anyway, nonetheless, her place is like crazy. And the crazy part about it, I have to be honest about how I thought. This is what I was thinking. Okay, I think her main house is 10,000 square feet. And then she has another house that's, I don't know how many square feet. And then she has another house, I don't know how many square feet. Now, yes, my house that my husband and I lived in was a 10,000 square foot house. We lived in a neighborhood, not on an estate. I want to just be honest. So as I was pulling through her gates, I started thinking to myself, now we started at the same point, and wow, look at all of this. It was like, this cannot be a person that was a reality star. This could not be for real. And not that, reality stars can't make all this money, but it was just sort of like, for me, it was kind of like, I don't know, like, wow, we started in the same. And I was just, you just can't help but think like, wow, we started at the same point, and she it's just, I'm just being honest about how I was thinking. And I really was thinking like, wow, she is so far, and I'm still, working my ass off.
Because Bethenny, let's just be honest, Bethenny doesn't look like Nene, but also Bethenny came from a family that had access and money. And even though she was on her own and like she says broke for people like that isn't the same for broke like people like us, right? But she also has an entrepreneurial spirit. You can't take that away from her. Bethenny's an entrepreneur, and she started the Skinny Girl brand, and she sold it to the Jim Beam company for like $100 million. So either way you shake it out, Nene wasn't going to have the same type of lifestyle that Bethenny has, period. And that's not hate. It's just the truth.
But nonetheless, after that, she had a nice little small crew. They were all women, which I love. A photographer that took some pictures of us, which you probably have seen us sitting around her apple tree, or we took a few pictures just outside in her yard. And then we went inside of her main house, and she gave me a little tour, which I love. I love to see a crib. And one thing I forgot to see was her shoe closet, because I love to see, a closet only if you want me to see your closet. Now, I'm not going to just break in your closet. So, she showed me around her house. It's somewhat vintage in some places. Some of the old pieces of the house that was there many, many years ago is still there. But it was very beautifully done. And in her basement area is where she has like her podcast set up, which was really, really nice. And we didn't talk about like, these are the questions we're going to go over. This is the stuff we're going to say. We didn't talk about any of those things, which is why I was like really, really nervous, because I was scared that it may be something asked of me that I personally did not want to answer. However, I am an open book in all interviews that I go to. So I am open to talking about almost anything. And if I don't want to talk about it, I kind of just don't talk about it. You know what I mean? So a lot of the questions that Bethenny was asking me, we never stopped. We just kept going and kept going and kept going in the interview. It was really like two, old girlfriends that hadn't seen each other in years, and we were just catching up on everything. And I enjoyed it. Her team took really good care of me. They knew I was super nervous. They know that, I've been through a lot that people just do not know about. And even though I had that interview with Bethenny and we touched on those things, there is so much you do not know, so much I have never even spoken about. I got a question saying, did Bravo or Andy or whoever it is, they never wanted to talk to you? And I want to answer that question. They never talked to me. How we got to this point is I was asking that we should sit down so I can talk to them about the issues that we have, or the things that I know that have been done, and I want to be able to sit down and discuss it with someone. No one to this day that I sit right here and do this interview with you have ever said, let's talk to her. Let's see what her problem is.
They don't have to. You were an employee. Like that rattles me. And just knowing that she's really not being honest, because we know that Nene could give the attitude, and that is not something that they have to deal with. If they feel your energy, listen, they don't have to. But the ironic thing about this video is she calls it moving on, but she's still dwelling on the past. If you're moving on, I'm not saying that you don't still feel the way you feel about things that happened in the past. I'm not one of those people that is like, oh, you just forget. Yeah, you still remember, but you get the healing that you need. If you need therapy, go through that, get that continuously. And in the public, do something different. And if you're going to call this video moving on, then talk about where you are today. Because a lot of people wonder that. Like, what are you actually doing today besides the lounge being closed, the swag boutiques being closed, and you're talking about the Real Housewives of Atlanta still? Seriously. And that's not to be funny. I'm not saying that to try to be funny. I'm saying that because I honestly feel like if you're going to call this video moving on, you need to talk about today. Talk about your family. Talk about like what you're going through besides being pissed off that Bravo only offered you 6 shows and you declined it and they haven't had you back since.
Let's see if there's a world where we can work things out. When I say work things out, I don't mean work them out and go back on the show. I mean work through whatever these issues are that is keeping us, going back and forth. I personally thought that after working for a company for that many years, now granted, companies can tell you goodbye anytime they want to. I get it. But, being that they are still profiting off of me with being the number one meme everywhere, memes all over the place, and I'm the only housewife that have that many memes out there, nobody else. So they're still profiting off of me in that way and running episodes that they're still profiting off of me. And I feel a conversation was warranted because I figured out what was going on. And it just felt like they would have said, we've had this long working relationship with her. What did she do? She didn't do anything that warranted us to stop her from working, and I literally did not. And I read some of the comments where people saying, did Nene forget what she did? It's like, what did I do? What did I do? If I did something, I'm so willing to own it. I don't have a problem with owning it. And I just want to know, what did I do?
And I'm going to stop it right there. There's about 5 minutes left of this video. I'm going to put a link to it in the description box if you want to check the rest out. But yeah, the thing you don't own is your change in feeling as if you didn't need the housewives. You really weren't showing up for work like you were supposed to. You were consistently playing the victim. There's a lot of things that people could say. I'm not going to go down the line. But again, like I said, the ironic thing about this video, she calls it moving on, but here she is in the past, still talking about these things. And if that's what the channel's going to be about, unless you're just a hardcore fan of Nene's, it's going to get tiring, and I don't want to hear that. It just sounds like a bunch of whining and complaining and still dwelling on the past, but yet you're saying you're moving on. And so I'm going to give her a little bit of grace because this is her comeback, so to speak, to YouTube video. So, okay, go ahead and let you slide. But if you do another video talking about RHOA, then I'm going to have something to say. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments section. Thanks so much for being here, for liking and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until the next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.